Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report with some breaking news. The Las Vegas Raiders signed offensive tackle Andrus Peat, and if you could, I need you to click that like button because if not, Alex is going to kill me for popping back up here into the studio and breaking this all down for you. Coming up here on today's show, I'm going to tell you why the Raiders decided to sign Peat. What does this mean for dudes like, I don't know, Thayer, Munford, Delmar, Glaze? What does it mean for that extra interior offensive line? Because there's a key word, very, very key word of why I think the Raiders decided to bring in Andrus Peat. Here's my promise to the nation, though. You're not always going to agree with what I say. You're not always going to agree with Chugs and what we do. But you know what? When breaking news happens, even if I got a dinner reservation for my one-year engagement in a few minutes, I'm here covering it. Now, what do we do here? Commitment to excellence. Anytime Raiders breaking news happens, we got you covered here on the Raiders Report. So, I know when this move ended up going down, my initial thought was like, what does this mean for the offensive line? Is he going to be competing with Thayer Munford? Is he going to be competing with Delmar Glaze as a right tackle? Well, you're looking at a player that's played less than 100 snaps in his entire NFL career at right tackle. He has been 99% of the time on the left side, whether that be left tackle, left guard. That's where he played last season for the New Orleans Saints. Is a three-time Pro Bowler from 2018 to 2020 and has just battled a lot of injuries over the back half of his season. I mean, one of the other reasons why I think the Raiders really wanted to go out and they wanted to do this is because they wanted to add a veteran. Yes, they have Kolton Miller on your offensive line. Cool. Yes, you have Cody Whitehair, who is another veteran that has some ties with Luke Getsy. But now you're looking at another veteran presence here with an offensive line that does have some of these younger players. And what if the Raiders wanted a lot of these backups, instead of them being younger backups, have some older backups? Because to me, Peat is probably going to be a backup on this roster. Now, if he ends up beating out Munford and Glaze and they want him to put him at right tackle, totally different conversation. I'm just not 100% sure that that's where he's going to end up being here on this offensive line. So what I want to know right now, and we got a lot of, questions here on today's show. I want you to get those red pens out, and I want you to grade the signing. A, B, C, D, or F. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. I will admit, I do not have the contract details. If I had to take a guess, 1 year, let's say it's probably somewhere around $2.5, $3 million. It's kind of what they gave Greg Van Roten. Remember last year they gave Jermaine Illuminor about 2.5. That's going to be my guess. That's what my answer is going to be based off of after this YouTube ad break. I'm going to give this one a C grade, and I think it's an average move. It's going to be a depth move, but I also know for a fact that the reason why you make a deal like this is because of that versatility, and that's the one-word reaction that I have. It's the key word that I'll continuously bring up. He can play left tackle, he can play left guard, but can he play on the right side? I think for a guy like Andrus Peat, a former first-round pick who's got a lot of playing experience underneath his belt, he has played in 111 games. He's got 102 career starts. And at this point, maybe this is the time where he's got to move over to the right side to get a little bit more of that playing time. Last season, according to PFF, a 60.2 overall grade. Pass blocking grade at 54.5. Run blocking grade at 62.1. 6 penalties in total. When I look at a lot of these numbers, though, from Peat and some of the write-ups that we have just from some of our guys here, lots of injuries, but when he can stay healthy is when you're going to see the best versions of him, right? So last season, 16 games, 12 games started. Year before that, had to miss 6 games. Year before that, had to miss 11 games. He's been kind of consistent, but even back in 2020, played in only 13 games. 2019, played in only 10 games. Played in only 13 games in 2018. However, was a Pro Bowler in all 3 of those seasons. I'm not expecting us to get a Pro Bowl talent. I am expecting us to get a veteran that hopefully can be a good teammate right away, and if he goes in there and busts his hump and can be healthy, then he absolutely can compete for a starting spot. It's just, where is it going to be? Because the only starting spot available on that Raiders line is at right tackle, which, again, he's only played about 100 snaps there. We'll continue to break down what this move means for Las Vegas, but I got to give a shout-out to our sponsor, PrizePicks. And PrizePicks, super simple, super easy to use, and you're going to have a lot of fun. That, to me, in today's day and age, that's a check, check, check. Yep, I'm interested. All you got to do is choose more or less, and if you go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and make sure that you use code CLNS, you're going to get a first-time deposit match of up to $100. Now, I don't know about y'all. I am fired up for some NBA basketball tonight. Little playoff action. You got the New York Knicks up against the Indianapolis Pacers. The Indiana Pacers. Also, you got the Nuggets up against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And you know what? Yeah, I get it. This is the football show. This is the Raiders Report. And if you want to use your season-long picks, these are my season-long picks that I'm rolling with right now that I feel very confident. Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, give me the both more on their touchdown passes. Chris Jones, give me the less on his sacks. FKC. But then also, because of playoff basketball, I'm going to be watching tonight. I'm going to make a few picks, and I have the opportunity to win some money, which I'll probably have to spend on flowers and maybe some chocolates and maybe a little extra champagne to make Alex just a little bit happier. But bottom line is, if you're like, Mitch, I'm not doing anything tonight. I'm going to watch playoff basketball anyway. Hey, more, less, pick a few players, put it together, a nice little lineup here, and try to win some money on America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. That is PrizePicks. Chugs and I use this on the reg. I think you guys are going to have a lot of fun with it. That link's going to be available to y'all down in the comments and down in the description of today's show. All right, so real quick here again, we're live on the Raiders Report breaking down the signing of Andrus Peat here, which just came in about 10, 15 minutes ago. The Raiders also signed Jalen Guyton earlier today. And if you remember, Guyton had a workout last week with the Raiders. The Raiders also signed Michael Gallup. So since the NFL draft has happened, the Raiders have gone out. They have signed Michael Gallup. They have gone out. They have signed Jalen Guyton. And now they are adding more depth here to this offensive line. And when you're talking about a dude that's 6'7", 316 pounds, he's a mountain of a human being. And kind of reminds me of an O-lineman that Carmen Brasillo probably would have loved last season. Now you got a new offensive line coach in James Craig, and I kind of like this because when you get a new coach, especially on the offensive line, you want a lot of that continuity. You need a lot of that chemistry. Well, the only way you're going to be able to figure out who's got chemistry and where that continuity is coming in with a brand new offensive line coach is if you kind of bring in a lot of competition, and this is what the Raiders have done. They are bringing in lots and lots and lots of competition, especially in the trenches where the Raiders believe that this is where they're going to win games, on the offensive line and on the defensive line. So I believe if the season started today, the players that are pictured would be your starting offensive linemen. As you can see, I have Peat now slotted right behind Kolton Miller, right ahead of Jalen McKenzie, which is absolutely where he should be. The fact that the Raiders also signed Cody Whitehair, I kind of like his spot there as the backup left guard. After that, though, based on this Raiders offensive line, to me, if you go out and you sign a guy like Peat, I am a big believer now that the Raiders are going to keep 8 offensive linemen when they do their initial 53-man roster. If I had to make that decision today, I think it would be the players that are pictured, Delmar, Glaze, Cody Whitehair, and then Andrus Peat, which that means then a guy like Jordan Meredith is going to be the odd man out. And the reason why I believe that Meredith would be the odd man out is because Whitehair can play guard and he can also play center. Peat can play left tackle, and he can play guard. Then also you get a guy like Glaze, a lot of flexibility. Munford, a lot of flexibility. Parham, a lot of flexibility. Andre James has played multiple positions. You're talking about multiple linemen on our Raiders offensive line that can play multiple positions. The key word is versatility. But I'm not going to lie to y'all. The initial reaction that I got when the Raiders ended up bringing in Peat, I go, what the hell does that mean for Delmar Glaze? What the hell does that mean for Thayer Munford? Because I think when you think about the offensive line, you're like, all right, Kolton Miller, that's a starter. Jackson Powers-Johnson, that's a starter. Andre James, starter. Dylan Parham, starter. The only spot that there is a legitimate chance that Peat can start is at right tackle. At least that's my personal opinion. Now, like, you could potentially have a situation where maybe Kolton Miller kicks over to the right side. I don't really see why you would do that and keep Peat on the left side. But this has been a dude that started 12 games last season, started 11 games at left guard, and then has been starting a lot of games at left guard, at left tackle for the New Orleans Saints over the past few seasons. But the injuries, especially out of the last few seasons, have really started to rack up here for a guy like Peat, and I'm not 100% sure if he's going to be ready to go, if he's going to be able to go. Hopefully that he is. I also know this. Michael Gallup, a lot of injury concerns, but when he's healthy, he's a good player. Andrus Peat, a lot of injury concerns, but when he's healthy, he's a good player. What if AP Telesco are saying, F them injuries, let's get a lot of depth here, and let's get some of these older players to help groom some of our younger offensive linemen? So here's my next question here. Give me a yes, give me a no. Can the Raiders have the best offensive line in the National Football League? Chugs is a big guy that loves the trenches. I'm rocking my Big House jersey right now. I think to say the best offensive line in the NFL is a little bit of a stretch. I do think, though, the only way that you have the full potential to be the best offensive line in the NFL is if Thayer Munford sees that you drafted Delmar Glaze, sees that now you signed Pete and goes, all right, it's time to battle. Because I believe in Jackson Powers-Johnson. I believe in Andre James. He's gotten better and better and better every year at center. You guys know that I like Dylan Parham. Kolton Miller is one of the best tackles in the NFL. But when you're going to have a quarterback battle, right, between Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, you need to assure yourself that, yeah, you're going to be able to protect both of those QBs. On top of that, you need to be able to assure that you're going to be able to run the football effectively, that you're going to be able to hold off defenders long enough where you're going to be able to take a few deep shots, or else it doesn't make sense of why you sign a guy like Gallup, why you sign a guy like Guyton. And Andrus Peat, if he's healthy, this will be a good move for the Las Vegas Raiders. The really, really big question, and that is, will he be healthy? So one more time here, the Las Vegas Raiders, they signed offensive tackle Andrus Peat. The first person that was on this story was ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter. You're just looking at some extra depth, especially on that left side of the line. Maybe Pete's a little bit more open to potentially playing on that right side if it means him getting a starting job in the National Football League. But the Raiders, they added a guy, a lot of playing experience on a young offensive line with a new offensive line coach. And the offensive line coach, I don't know, maybe there's some Louisiana connections. Was once with LSU, then he was with the Niners. Now you got Pete rolling on over here. If you want to stay up to date on even more stuff going on around the Raiders, hey, make sure you guys give me a follow on IG. Make sure you give me a follow on Twitter as well. I am at Mitchell Renz 365. I also seen a lot of people throwing out speculation that maybe the Raiders are going to move on from Kolton Miller. I see that right now in the live chat. I would be shocked if the Raiders moved on from Kolton Miller, so I'm not even going to put that one out into the universe.